Hingham School Committee meeting of June 5th, 2017 at 7:30 p.m. And our first item on our agenda is the approval of minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the school committee meeting held on May 22nd, 2017.
Second, okay. Any discussion? No? All those in favor?
Aye. And I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the executive session of the school committee meeting also held on May 22nd, 2017.
Second, okay. And any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Okay. All right, next, questions and comments. Audience comments are always welcome as agenda items are discussed. The school committee has set aside 15 minutes on this agenda to enable members of the audience to raise questions and make comments on any matter of general concern that is not on the agenda. Individual speakers shall be limited to 3 minutes. Speakers are reminded that the meeting is being televised and are asked to respect the privacy rights of others. Comments against any individual are not allowed by policy 3.7.5. Anyone in the audience? Okay. Superintendent's report?
Yes, this is not on because we're plugged in.
Okay.
So, I did mention that I was going to make some comments about graduation, but Brad's taking care of that for us, so I'll let him to make those
Okay.
announcements. With respect to the search for a new athletic director, we have revised the job description for that job, as we typically do when we're making a change. We've posted the job both internally and also on School Spring. As of this morning, we had 40 applications, and we still have about a week to go, so that's a fair number. I've given a lot of thought to an appropriate screening committee for that, and at this point, my proposed screening committee would include 2 coaches, 2 members of the school committee, 2 booster parents, 2 student athletes, 1 Hingham Sports Partnership representative, the athletic trainer, who of course knows all of the students and all of the coaches, who has a good perspective, the administrative assistant for the athletic department, and Rick, the principal, and I will chair that committee. So it's a total of, I think, 12 people. The postings are out now. When they come in, my intent would be to compile the list of them and send an email pretty quickly to determine what people's availability is going to be over the summer, to see whether we should focus on July or August as the time to have interviews. In terms of the people being selected for the committee, a number of people unsolicited over the last couple of months have sent me letters of interest to being on the committee. Margaret has compiled a list of some folks that have spoken with her, and so we would like, of course, for the school committee chair to facilitate us getting 2 names. And then in terms of folks like the coaches and the booster parents and the student athletes, Margaret and I will endeavor to put together a list that doesn't have too much overlap of sports, so that we don't have, 5 hockey players and 3 girls tennis players, for example. So we will work on that. The trainer would, of course, be Al Blaisdell, the administrative assistant. Is Mrs. Holler, and I will contact the president of Hingham Sports Partnership to give me a name for that. Unlike the searches for central office folks and principals, we don't typically do any kind of a site visit because not all of these folks would be employed in an athletic job in the places where they are. So we will do the first set of interviews, the second set, and possibly at the end, if we get down to a couple, have some sort of a reception that we could invite everybody to. So Margaret will be here until, I think it's October 2nd. So our goal would be to have someone in place for the start of school, probably with a start at this job, giving maybe a 2-week overlap. So Margaret would be responsible then for putting together the fall sports schedules, and then the new person would take over at that point. So I'll be reaching out to get reps and working with Margaret to put together this list, and we'll be off to go. We have a couple of more openings that have come along because we did have an additional retirement just last week. And so that's an elementary person. We will need to advertise for that person. So with that hiring, we feel comfortable about where we are. We also know that none of the additional vocational school applications that we were concerned about is going to be an issue for us. We have one vocational student of the new ones who applied this year, and so we are within budget on that. So those two factors, another retirement, which gives us some additional dollars, and the fact that we don't think we're going to have any more of vocational liability than we already have, we're feeling good about the budget.
Did you want to mention the first grade?
Oh, yes, there's a letter in your packet. It's on the slide with the, it's a letter from Katie Roberts. It's on the slide that's number 4 that says good news. And a lot of good things are going on as we're reaching the end of the year, into plans for next year, plans for professional development, and we have science that we want to focus on over the next year, and some new materials, and particularly in the entirely in the elementary grades, I guess I would say. And this is a partnership that involves the Museum of Science with our first grade class at South School. And so this is something Katie arranged. Katie at one point taught courses for the Museum of Science. But we've been piloting a new unit on the science of sound, and educators from Museum of Science are coming to all of the classes at South School to pilot some new lessons from a curriculum that's currently under development at the museum. And these lessons are part of a bigger initiative by Museum of Science to support integration of science and coding. That's the interesting part of it, coding into the early elementary grades. So each of the classes will have 4 classes with these Museum of Science educators, and one will be in the computer lab, that's kind of interesting, and one in the music room, and 2 in the regular classroom. And so they're going to explore some simple concepts of computer coding. So this is the letter that's reminding us of that, and I'm not sure exactly what the dates are, but they are before the end of the year, so we'll be interested to see that. Last week we had some of the elementary tech specialists here with Katie and with a guest lecturer, and they were playing with things like robotic kinds of things and logo things, and it looked like a great deal of fun. So all of that is part of this new work for elementary science.
Great. Okay. Any questions? Communications? Dot, did you have any communications?
No, I don't have any other.
Okay. So, student communications. Brad Patterson has a report.
So I put together a little slideshow for the seniors' final week. It includes pictures from graduation, prom, and senior night as well, and all pictures of courtesy of Andrew Mariner Photography. And there, if you want to see the full albums, I encourage you to do so, just because I was looking through them all. I couldn't fit them all in because there's over a few hundred photos, but just going through them kind of made me miss what not being in school for these last few weeks, and made me kind of regret everything. Just kind of want to go back to it. And these are kind of a few fun ones that I found throughout the crowd. And these photos range from just friends to also larger groups. And also the picture booth is incredible with great little props to use. And then there was also classes that also took photos. This is Miss Hebert's calculus class and Mr. Forrester's physics class, all jumping at the same time. And then we also have to give a shout out to all of the teachers and chaperones who came to help with the night, and the 2 secretaries, and Dr. John McCann as well. Senior night. So this theme at senior night was Pirates of the Caribbean, which is going to be and there was also a Johnny Depp lookalike for the whole night. And also, thank you to the Hingham Police Department for helping with the event. And shout out to the parents, two of which are here, both my parents, Lisa and Stuart Patterson, for helping put on a night that lasted as long as the school day. And then more parents. And we also have graduation. And luckily, the rain held away for the first hour and a half-ish, and then came in during the walks of a few kids. But we also had a great speech from Mrs. O'Reilly and from our salutatorian, Noah Goodman, also the treasurer for our grade, Cal Sutton, the valedictorian, Alex Ferrara, the student speaker, and then finally Max Russo, the class vice president. And during Max's, we also had a surprise thank you to Dr. Jerron McCann from all of the class officers, even though she may have been a little bit angry at Max for changing his speech.
That is a great picture of her. That's amazing. That's great.
And then after that, the walking of all the students, getting their diplomas. And then finally flipping the tassels from left to right. And then the hat throw at the end. And yep, that's it. So that's the end to my senior career, is both this and...
Brad, we want to thank you very much for 2 years coming to all our meetings and giving us insight into the high school. We very much appreciate it. And on behalf of the school committee and the school administration, we have a little gift for you. So good luck in school. And one more thing, because we know you enjoy political science and interned on Beacon Hill, we have some guests here today to honor you and recognize you. So we have, I should speak into the microphone, Representative Joan Moschino. Oh, perfect timing. And then we have Paige Halloran, who's the legislative aide of Representative Jamie Murphy, and then also Mike Murphy, who's a legislative aide for Senator Patrick O'Connor. They all have something to read to you and to present to you as well.
So in honor of all of your civic engagement and your dedication to your class, to the school, and to the larger school committee, we thought it would be nice to come in and just take a minute to honor that work. It's really tremendous. Just to see someone who's a young adult that's so committed to his community and actually engaged in civic engagement is really tremendous. And I know that you were also an intern for former Rep. Bradley, and then to continue work doing this way. I can't wait to see what's next for you. And in honor of that, from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, the House of Representatives, be it hereby known to all that the Massachusetts House of Representatives offers its sincerest congratulations to Brad Patterson in recognition of your dedication to the Hingham School Committee, as well as your outstanding academic accomplishments and your tireless leadership. The entire membership extends its very best wishes and expresses the hope for future good fortune and continued success in all your endeavors. And it's signed this day, the 5th of June, by the Speaker of the House, Robert DeLeo, and myself, your State Representative, Joan Moschino. And we also have one from Representative Murphy.
So Representative Murphy would like to present this citation to you. Be it hereby known to all that the Massachusetts House of Representatives offers its sincerest congratulations to Bradford Patterson in recognition of being an exemplary student and your dedication to Hingham High School, your classmates, and your friends and family.
And then also from Senator O'Connor's office.
So Senator O'Connor has sent his apologies. He couldn't make it. He had a scheduling conflict, but he thinks you're a very exceptional young student and wishes you the best in all your future endeavors. So we have an official state Senate citation. Be it known that the Massachusetts Senate hereby extends its congratulations to Bradford Patterson in recognition of your outstanding leadership on the Hingham School Committee as the school committee student representative, and for your extraordinary accomplishments as a student of Hingham Public Schools. And be it further known that the Massachusetts Senate extends its best wishes for continued success, that this citation be duly signed by the President of the Senate and attested to, and a copy of thereof transmitted by the Clerk of the Senate. and signed by Senate President Stanley Rosenberg, the Clerk of the Senate William Welch, and Senator O'Connor.
Congratulations.
And before I go, I'd like to thank all the school committee members, present and past, that have been with me for the past 2 years. And I would like to thank my two parents who are both here for, even though it annoyed me when I'd come home to see that they had been watching the school committee meeting, every single one that I participated in. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Congratulations, Brad. Good luck to you.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations, Brad.
Brad, congratulations.
Thank you for everything.
I know we'll be scheduling some time for the three of us to come back and visit with the school committee in a few weeks.
Yeah, that would be great. We'd love to hear the latest from Beacon Hill and all that's going on, so we appreciate that.
It'll be great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll be in touch. Thank you so much for making it. Appreciate it.
That was very nice of you.
Likewise, thank you.
Okay. Back to, that's the fun part of the job. Other communications, I wanted to inform the committee that today I received an update on talent bank applications from the Selectman's office, and I just didn't get a chance to forward those to everyone, and that's for the Foster School Building Committee. And so I will forward them to everyone. I have to consult, I have a couple other ones that I got as onesies. And then at our next meeting, we can have a better explanation of where we go next. The selectmen and the moderator have been going through talent bank interviews for all the different people that applied, and they've had a record year of applications. So for all committees that they're appointing people to. So then I will touch base with them and I'll know the next steps. But our notice about people applying did get on the pin board. And then the middle school and the high school PTO newsletters, I know, I saw it there.
And I know PRS and South too.
It was sent to all of
Confirmations,
them.
yeah.
And I sent it to the Hingham Journal. Someone told me they saw it in the Journal, but I'm not sure. I didn't remember seeing it, so. But if it goes in next week, we'll still take people as long as we're interviewing people, so. So that is it on communications for right now. New business, 6.1, to award the high school roof repair bid.
Liza,
Oh.
just before you go there, on the communications, student communications, do we have the new rep already, the name of the new rep?
For the
Six
school
reps.
rep, no, we don't.
Okay.
Or-
Do we have? No. All right. Thank you.
No, that, we'll have to follow up with Brad and the student council and our principal to get that one, but good reminder. Okay. So John, the
Yep,
high
the
school-
high school roof. We went out to bid for the high school roof, which was designed by Habib and Associates. We opened the bids on May 22nd, and we received 5 bids, and I think in the documentation it shows you the bids from Capeway Roofing, SRC Roofing, Gibson Roofing, Wayne Roofing, and Leading Way Construction Company. The bids range from $156,000 at the high end to $86,200 at the low end. The low-end bidder was Capeway Roofing, and Habib Associates it did reference checks on Capeway and has also done previous projects with Capeway and confirmed with Capeway that they were in fact able to get the job done on time. The job should start shortly after we dismiss for the summer, and it should really be completed substantially by August 1st or July 31st. So with that, we recommend that we award the high school roof project to Cape Way Roofing in the amount of $86,200. Which is below the budget. The budget for this project, it's an insurance settlement, and about $28,000 was allocated to for the designer. We received about $133,000 worth of reimbursement from the insurance company. So this will fit within. This says $86,200, but I'm sure that when they open the roof, there may be some small changes or so. So I think we have some leeway, and I think that at this range, it seems as though we'll get the entire project done within what the insurance has already provided as a settlement. If it should go over, or they find something new when they go through construction, the claim isn't settled yet, so we could still go back to the insurance company and say, hey, here's what we found, and other change orders would be considered.
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
I'll make the motion that the Hingham High School roof repair project be awarded to Cape Way Roofing in the amount of $86,200.
I'll second that.
Second, okay. Any discussion, further questions? I know long-range planning has been going through this project in detail. Okay, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Great, thank you, John.
Thank you.
Okay. 6.2, to hear an update on the financial report for the fiscal year 17 operating and capital budgets, and take action as may be appropriate. And this is an update on this year's current budget with the fiscal year ending June 30th.
That's correct. So the fiscal 2017 budget, what we have at this point is basically the entire budget is expended, encumbered, or forecast to be spent. As I'm showing the results right now, I'm figuring there's about $4,800 left in the operating budget and about $34,000 left in the capital budget. What typically will happen at the end of the year, there's still a lot of purchase orders that will end up closing out. The budget has a significant number of lines in it, and while the purchase orders sit there and they stay as encumbered funds, between now and the end of the year, typically what happens is a lot of those purchase orders will drop off, so some additional funds will become available. I don't expect it to be any large amounts of funds, but I do think that it could be a few $1,000s, which could cover some items for the 18 school year where we hadn't put it in the budget, figuring that we may be able to use end-of-year funds. And then from a capital perspective, the $34,000, that's primarily roof capital that we had. We have trained, last year we actually trained people to repair some of our roofs, so we had a significant savings in roof. We had $50,000 allocated in capital, and we didn't use all of that. And then also we have monies for copiers every year. And this is actually the month now. In May and June, we sort of review the copier fleet. There's 31 copiers. And we have a combination of copiers where some are leased and some are purchased. Typically, I purchase the ones that are in the administrative office because they do lower volume and stuff, and you can get a longer life out of them, versus the ones that are in the teacher workrooms where there ends up being 3-4 million copies over a 3-year period. The fleet, so we'll typically do that next year. However, this year we have a couple of leases that will be expiring where the volumes aren't so much. Not where I would anticipate. I typically like to see 3.5 million copies before I let go of a copier, the leased ones, because I think that's where we're getting value. But we have a couple that are, sitting at $1 million to $2 million, $1.5 million to $2.3 million. So those may be worthy of, like, let's purchase them. We'll get a couple of the years. We won't go into another lease. We'll save some money, and so I would expect, I'm expecting that I probably will do a couple of those, so that will take away some of that $34,000, because I'll use the capital money for the purchase of the copiers for that money. Other than that, I provided a letter. It's a good year. It's been a real good year. We were fortunate with a warm winter. The transportation, us entering into the bus lease and managing our own buses has produced a positive variance. The utilities, because of the warm winter, we saved some money on utilities. That provided us some leeway to do additional projects. You'll notice, when you look at the details, I provided notes on the summary sheet for, a lot of the large variances. You'll notice that the plant maintenance, we had significant issues with elevators when we went through inspection this year. Playgrounds, many of you are familiar with the playgrounds, we had to do some additional work on playgrounds, and actually we have in the capital budget in subsequent years more additional monies for playgrounds so that we can put some poured-in-place rubber in there. You're all aware of the issues that we had with Foster, so that incurred some additional contractor expense. And this year, fire extinguishers is sort of cyclical, so we have to inspect them every single year, but sort of every 3 years, they tend to need a recharging or a little bit more work or some replacements. So those really accounted for the bulk of the plant maintenance variance. Also in plant maintenance, we had an open slot once Paul Field retired, the organization, Doug and Katie, we let that position stay open for a while so they could better evaluate the role. And they have changed the role, and we have filled that position. But during the time that wasn't hired, we had saved some money on the budget there. But that would be used for the additional contractor expense as well.
Did you say you have filled it?
Mm-hmm.
Yes? Oh, okay, good.
Yes, we filled it.
Yeah.
Great.
It was Al Duquette from
Oh,
Al Duquette from Foster School is been promoted to project coordinator. So he's effective May 15th, but he will he's staying at Foster until we get the lead there placed. And plus, he's very familiar with Foster, so we think that he's a real good candidate because he's dedicated and he's well aware of a lot of activity that should be happening in that school and within the district over the next few years. So, and we like the fact that there's opportunity for advancement. That now there's a lead custodian position open, and there are people within the district. I'm not sure who the candidates are, but there are people within the district that have applied for that lead opening. So, to the extent that they're good people, it's good that there's a track where people can advance themselves. The transportation program, I can't say enough about that. That has been a genuine success. It's reduced fuel costs. The maintenance, of course, as we expected, that you get new buses. We do have maintenance. They're in there, but we didn't spend all the maintenance money this year, so that produced a positive variance. We have the same thing in for next year, but we'll probably need some brakes next year and some tires. So we're learning, but I think overall the program has been very, very good. So from a special ed standpoint, you'll see that we saved some money on tuitions, and the offset to the tuitions really is additional spending in some contracted services and also some additional spending in transportation. Transportation's sort of a two-edged, there's two things going on in transportation. One is, I think that I've under-budgeted, and I just can't seem to get a budget where I get up to enough money for transportation. And then the other is there's additional use. As tuition stays stabilized or we retain students, we end up using additional services. And, through that we do additional transportation. So, it's all good. It helps the students stay here. So you save some in tuition, but you spend a little bit more in contracted services. Also, because of demand, we had some other specialized services this year where we just didn't have FTEs anticipated within the budget for it. So, a portion of FTEs we have to, bill out really on contracted services. So, that number's up a little bit. The other thing I might mention is in technology. If you see the instructional equipment, there's a significant variance there. That has to do with the licenses. the last upgrade that we did, you know, we used the previous before the last upgrade. It was always you bought a CD and you would load this all on the computer. Now everything's an annual license. And that's, these technology companies, that's the way of them just increasing the price because this variance is real. We did catch it, so I think it is incorporated into the fiscal 18 budget. But, you know, the licenses for technology is really up. When you look at personnel, net personnel is about a wash. The big thing on personnel has to do, there's still a big wild card out there just with the usage of subs. And I do have an allocation in for the usage of subs between now and the end of the year, but you know, the fluctuations in sub usage at the end of the year can really be, you know, wild. It can be significant. There can be, you know, a lot of money coming, hitting the budget very quickly. Or it could slow down. So there's a cushion there. So some money might free up there. I would hope that overall that I'm very conservative and that we're not going to be in a position where I've underestimated things. I do think that, you know, we have this 4,800, even though it seems very tight. In every year that I've ever done this, over 10 years, at the end of the year, money just tends to, those POs close out and that money continues to drop. So I think that we can cover any additional unexpected spending that may come up. I think we could, you know, cover you know, Dr. Gallo told me about we didn't budget for virtual high school for next year, so I think we could be able to, you know, not enough. We didn't vote enough for a virtual high school. So I do think that we'll end up with, you know, several thousands of dollars that we can use to purchase those. But I wouldn't expect any huge amounts of money to show up.
So I guess as we think about this time of year, are there certain things which, like virtual high school, we had almost double the number of kids that we budgeted for. So we're going to attempt to prepay the tuitions of that new group, and then next year we'll add to the budget. So that's a good thing. But usually at this time of year, certainly in recent years, ever since we've had the special ed fund there, we've always thought, can we add to that fund? It now has $350,000 in it, and our thinking is that with what we've got, it's unlikely that we're going to have a large enough number, but we can revisit that again at the last meeting in June. We'd have to vote then if it were the will of the committee to want to add to that fund. But right now, it's sitting on $350,000. This is a good budget year. When you come in under budget, no matter how little under budget, it is a good year. So we've had a good spending year, but I wouldn't say that we would be returning an amount to the town that's in any way similar to what we've returned in the last couple of years.
John, how many miles do we put on an average school bus a year?
That, you know, that's a good question. I think Patrick cycles them. I think that they're somewhere around 12,000 miles. But you know, he has a couple of spares, so he sort of brings the spares into the mix so he can manage them. And to the extent, so we have magnets, right? They're all buses are all numbers, but we have magnets. So if one bus has been on a shorter route, he'll trade that one off to sort of get them all equalized by just putting a new number on the two buses that he wants to move around. So he's thinking like that anyway. So, but typically it's about 12,000, I think, 12, 15. Yeah. And it's hard miles, of course, but, you know, they're meant to go. They're meant to stop and go, so.
John, just a quick question with the sped transportation. What makes that number so difficult to budget?
Well, the one thing Kate has to do with, we do purchase orders. We know everybody that needs transportation, so we'll set up a purchase order for the entire spending, okay? And then the actual bill payment happens when we determine how many days that they actually take the ride, because there tends to be, you know, some absences and stuff. So at the end of the year, we can true it up. Also, too, if you need to make a placement, you have to provide transportation. It's not like you can go out to bid and get a price. You got to find the contractor that can actually take them, and they won't all bid on, you know, on a job. So, you know, they're using their vans, and it just so happens it's one of those things where the van is needed at the same time every day, so there has to be an available van. It's not like you can sort of squeeze it in or manage it. So in that sense, contractors tend to be, the contractor rates, if you need somebody, you have to go to a contractor, they can be, you know, you can be $9,000 a year, you can be higher, depending on how far you're going. You know, transportation can be very expensive depending on the situation. And then with our own fleet, it's sort of like, we may be using monitors, but we're doing a lot more extra trips too, you know, locally. You know, so it's just a couple of extra hours here and a couple extra hours there, and over the course of the year, it just adds up. And it's hard to get the grasp of. You know, from a budgeting perspective, we look at it and say, okay, what is this person's schedule for? And we grab their hours and we extend it out by their rates to come up with it. And I'm not much for like swags or extras. I like to define what I think is going to happen, and I'd rather measure against that than try to put extra money in, because I don't want to use the money if I don't want to have the money appropriated if we're not really going to need it. And you know, even your best hunch, it's like you know, it's like, okay, I can't do it. We schedule everybody out. It's all zero base, but then when you actually get into the implementation of it, there's a few extra hours here, or if the new student needs another service, or we need to move somebody over, you know, give another person a ride. So, and it's very fluid during the course of a year. I expect that this, you know, I think that it will come down some, because we'll true up, and then we'll find out, you know, how many rides weren't taken. And those are significant sometimes. But I just don't, I can't say whether it's, you know, $2,000 or $50,000 until we actually close out the books.
I have two questions on special ed. So the out-of-district placements are significantly down, and most of those kids came back in house, so that's the sped instruction that went up. So that was the corresponding in general.
Over the time when we retain kids.
I know that there's.
Yeah, when we retain. Yeah, when kids
So
are
we're
retained,
retaining the
typically
kids
some
and
additional services. Yeah.
Okay.
You know, I mean, it could be one, it could be many. You
Yeah.
know, it's not. You know, a few can move the pendulum.
Yeah, I'd have to follow up and get more detail on it, since I haven't had too much time to look at this. And one other question, on plant maintenance, on elevators, are we kind of like now in good shape with elevators, or do we still have some that are hanging out there that we're gonna have to deal with?
No, I think the elevators are in good shape now. I mean, last inspection, when we inspected in September, we had a number of failures. So we had to do, that's where, you know.
Yeah, I know we've gone through
big
like a
number.
couple that
Yeah.
we've had to, but now you think we're in
yeah.
better shape
Oh, yeah,
for a while?
absolutely. Yeah, I mean,
Hopefully.
elevators, you know, something will break and you'll have to get it fixed. But I mean, you know, we certainly do pass the inspection. We've done the repairs. We did enter into a new elevator contract this year, and, you know, working very well with the company, and we're confident in their abilities and the work they do for us.
Okay.
What was the number? Because I can't see that. What was the sped reduction, transportation number exactly, please?
The transportation number is?
The transportation number was over by 71,299. The sped instruction was over by 176,383. However, sped programs with other districts was down 45,165. And then tuitions to non-public schools was down 183,369, and tuitions to collaboratives were down 36,162.
Okay, yeah.
So that was, those last three was what I was looking at compared to the 176,383.
Okay.
Does anyone else have any other questions? I'm sure if you have other questions before our next meeting, since we'll look at this likely again. And does anybody from the audience have any other questions? Okay.
And I think John has put a comment there that's worth repeating, and that is that even though the next meeting is the last one before July 1, and July 1 will come along on July 1, but throughout the summer, we'll still be getting invoices coming in and things going out, so we won't know the true bottom line until into the beginning of the fall.
But if we want
The books won't
to,
close out. Yeah.
I call it accrual, you have a different word for it, but if we want to identify anything we would want to prepay, we need to do that by June 30th,
Yes,
correct?
right, because we can't generate any new purchase orders after July 1.
Yeah.
Well, during this month, a lot of those those POs will close out. So, we're sort of like in daily tabs, as we go forward, from this point in. So, but then there could be other repairs that happen too, that we'll want to get done. If we have the capacity to get them done, we'd want to do those repairs as well. So there will be puts and takes between now and the end of the year as well.
Okay. Okay.
Would a proposal to set aside money subject to available funds be required as a full vote of the school committee? Yeah.
Yes.
Does that have to?
I mean,
can it be?
it doesn't have to be unanimous
can it-
vote, of course, but it.
No. So the 19th is the last time that
Yes.
we meet in June. Can we make proposals and vote on
We could.
on this topic on the 19th? Got it. Okay, thank you.
So hopefully we can get some
Yeah.
more information in time so we would do the agenda the Thursday morning before the meeting, so
Yeah.
we'll keep that in mind. I made a note about that, so, okay. Okay, 6.3, to discuss potential dates for long-range goals, community feedback forums, and surveys. So, we had at our last meeting talking about our calendars, about looking at the week of the June 12th of holding some community feedback forums to get some input as this summer we're working on looking at long-range planning and budget planning as well. And so we realized the week of June 12th is coming up pretty quick, and I
Next week?
recognize that the Community Outreach Subcommittee has a meeting tomorrow, but then we wouldn't all be back together after that. So I wanted to see if we could cover that part of Community Outreach meeting tonight so that everyone is aware. And then Community Outreach can follow up on the exact format of the forum and how it'll operate, but if we can look at some dates, or Kay, if you were thinking about.
So do we want to do a
Dates.
morning and an evening?
That's what we had talked about.
So
Do you have
next week?
And would we feel like this is enough time to publicize this effectively? That's my
Yes.
concern
Right, that
at
is
this
my
juncture,
concern, too.
especially at this time of year.
Yeah. But on the other hand, I think a lot of people will still kind of come more last minute anyway.
What if we did it on Monday, the 19th? We can't do the evening because we have a meeting, but we could do a morning that day.
So one other thing that's on this agenda item is to talk about surveys, and I had shared with all of you, and I shared with you what Winchester Public Schools were doing, and they are working on a strategic plan, and they posted surveys on their website that are available at any time for people to fill out. And so that, and they're housed there, it's a Google form and they have it broken down into a student survey, staff and teacher survey, and a community member survey, so that could be a parent or anyone in the community. So that because of the timing of this, and when I saw it, I thought, well, if we had these forums and then have the surveys out there so that we can publicize both of them. And, you know, also, we've never done these community forums, so could try it and then regroup in the fall if we want to get another chance of being, you know, one-on-one with people, or, but if we posted some kind of electronic survey, then people have the opportunity to complete that as well. So that's what I wanted to throw out there, to what you guys thought of it, because I do agree that it's short notice.
So you're saying do it anyway, but also have the survey?
So that for people that wouldn't be able to attend, they have an opportunity of sharing their thoughts.
Not a bad idea.
Yeah.
It's a great idea.
So would community outreach be the ones, would one of them be the one
Tell them.
primarily facilitating the conversation that day? Because if that's the intention, then I think we kind of have to defer to whoever that person's going to be as far as scheduling, because whoever's going to be the facilitator that day, we have to work this around that person's schedule.
I mean, I was thinking if it's posted as community outreach subcommittee meeting, but posted for the full school committee, so that even if 5 of us were there, that we could all be there. But it's led by, it's a one topic agenda item. Led
Because
by-
if that's the case, then I think I would just defer to you guys to schedule it, because if I can be there, great, but since you guys are running it, it has to work around your schedule primarily.
Problem is finding the dates. The morning of the 19th works, but evenings I find are going to be really, really difficult, and I hate to do anything in that last week, 'cause I think people are just going to be leaving, packing up, you know, doing their summer plans.
So what, the only thing on the weekend of, or week of, that week in the evening that I knew of was Wednesday, the 14th is CPAC meeting. Are there other evening things on the school calendars?
Friday is the 8th grade celebration, but. no-
Well, I wouldn't do anything Friday night anyhow, so that.
What time you thinking about, Kay, and others on the committee, in terms of the evening time? I mean, could you do on the 19th around 6 p.m. or that's bedtime?
We have the school committee meeting.
At 7:30. How long would that last?
I guess it depends on
Yeah.
how much feedback people have.
Yeah.
So it could be, I mean, it could be short, but it could be
Yeah.
a couple hours.
Probably be more like 7, just to be
Right.
I think so, yeah. What about Tuesday the 13th? Or Thursday, 15th?
There's a lot of stuff happening on the 13th, I know that.
I know, and.
Especially my birthday.
Is it your birthday?
No, but there was a couple of events happening in town.
They're on the 13th.
The
Yeah, I think
13th.
they have that too.
Is there a CPAC meeting on the 14th?
Yeah, on the 14th.
So I could do Tuesday though evening. Or even the Monday evening, the 12th?
I mean, if we think it's too tight, we just want to get the surveys out there, we can do that. I'd like to get some kind of community input before, you know, when going into the summer and as we're talking more.
Do we have a survey developed already, or?
I was gonna suggest we look at the Winchester ones because they're pretty basic and they're just on Google Forms, and we could do the same system and you know, get some just open questions to get some feedback from people on what's on their mind.
Why don't we just agree that we're gonna do something, and then in community outreach,
Okay.
we'll talk about it, and we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Whoever can be there,
Did-
great.
The link to the site was in the packet on that.
The Winchester. I
Yeah.
know, I did see
Okay.
it. I just didn't know if we were going to
Okay.
use pretty much what they had, or if we were still working on developing our own.
I wanted to, my thought was to keep it simple, and I thought theirs was nice and broad and, you know, I don't really want to me, I don't want to lead people on.
Mhm.
Because, you know, we've done specialized surveys before. We did a technology survey a couple of years ago, and, but I think this is more, I'd like to get more open thoughts. I mean, you know, you just
Yeah.
went through a campaign and you heard some feedback from people in the community, but to be able to reach out to more people, yeah, I think it'd be helpful.
Goodness, good.
Okay. Okay, so we will let community outreach follow up on that tomorrow.
We talked quickly about a venue last week and decided this was not the right venue, I think. Is that right? This room? So we need to find a venue as well. So maybe the library or? Do we want it to be in a school, I guess is my point? Or do we
Well,
want to
if
try to
it,
go?
morning, we talked about East School multipurpose room as usually a good
Okay.
place for parking. I mean, even during the day, we could use a conference room here, but that, I think people are more familiar with the schools.
Okay.
And the library is always a good opportunity.
Could always
Yeah.
invite them to Foster. So people see how Foster is.
A little tour along the way.
Yeah.
But the heat's not on, so.
It's warm out, so maybe not tonight, but.
At this point is he wants to.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so we will continue to, yeah, great, thank you. Okay. 6.4, to declare a surplus the following boats. Number 1, Austin Dock Rounds 2005. Number 2, 1983 Eastern Sprint Champions 2006. 3, Blaster Vespoli 4+ 2005, and 4, Mimi 2008, and sell the boats to the highest bidder, highest offered price, or otherwise dispose of the boats. The funds from the sale of these boats shall be remitted to the Hingham High School Rowing Association to be used for maintenance or replacement of existing equipment. John, do you want to take us through this?
Sure. I had a conversation with Paul Neat, I think he's still president, or there's an incoming president too, of the Hingham High School Rowing. And he had talked about they wanted to try to dispose of these boats and wanted to go through the process as we had described earlier by in the MOU that we were drafting. And so he provided this list to me, and he didn't think the boats had a lot of value to them. The insured value of each of these boats is the Dock Rounds. It's an estimate of $1,000. The Eastern Sprint Champions, an estimate of $1,500. The Vespoli 4+ is an estimated insurance value of $500, and the Mimi has an estimated value of $2,000. Don't know if you'd ever get it in a sale or so, but those boats they haven't been using for their program, and they have been on the insurance rolls for that small amount of money. But he requested that they be able to get rid of those so that they can use that money for, or perhaps use the money, if they could sell it for maintenance or to replace existing equipment. So with that, the guidelines that we were putting together said that before you can get rid of a boat, you have to go through this board, committee, and have these equipment declared surplus. In the past, we have in fact allowed a sale, and I think that the justification for taking the funds and paying it to the Hingham High School Rowing is so that they can use the money to replace equipment, to buy new boats, or to maintain the boats, because they're solely responsible for maintaining the boats. So
Did they buy these boats in the first place?
they may have been donated to them, or they could have been purchased. I'm not sure of how they did it, but they did give them to us.
But the town didn't buy them.
No, the town hasn't bought any of this equipment. You know, none of the equipment on the rowing list has been purchased by the town. It's all actually been provided by the HHSRA. And, you know, when something happens or there's a problem, you know, they're the ones that they turn around and fix it. I don't know a lot about their maintenance operations, but clearly if they have this fleet on the water all the time, they have to be doing regular upkeep and maintenance on these boats. So as we were building the MOU, you know, they talked about, okay, we have a particular problem. If they're going to donate boats, we have a particular problem. Once the boat gets into the town, you can't just get rid of a boat. You need to have it go through a process to get rid of the boat, which would be to declare it surplus and, you know, follow procurement laws if they pertain. And then you typically, when an asset that's purchased by the taxpayers actually gets sold, the money that results goes to the general fund, because the taxpayers have purchased that, so when you sell it, it goes back. Now, these were gifted, so the proposal is not to have the money go back to the general fund, but to go back to the organization that purchased the equipment and donated it to us so that they can purchase additional equipment or maintain equipment and continue to donate to us and stay as a viable organization. So.
Is there a downside?
I mean, I thought, you know, we were like hashing out how we go about doing these things, and, you know, that was what we talked about, as, you know, because I initially put together a bunch of bullets for financial responsibility for this organization. We talked about it once in January. I think we talked about it again in April. You know, we were looking for what's the best feasible way of having these boats get donated to us, or, you know, should there be some other vehicle such as, you know, hey, it's a lease and then you can insure them. So we sort of worked out what we thought would be a workable solution. I think that it is a good solution. I don't think that there's a downside. I think that, you know, this organization does in fact run this program, and I don't know what the state of this program would be without this organization. You know, I think that we've had very cordial conversations. I think they've been very upfront about the business aspects, at least on dealing with me on a one-to-one basis. So I'm just trying to help facilitate and keep the organization, you know, moving in the right direction so that support our kids. So I don't really see a downside to it. I don't know what the sale value would be, but I mean, we can in fact, you know, do an advertisement. They're an organization that's far better connected than us or any other advertisement, and they may, you know some other bidders, like, oh, hey, you know, how about this? Or because they're connected in the market, so they may know how they can get some value out of these boats. And I would hope that, you know, through our process, we can get that value and be able to put it to use for our students, one way or the other.
So the only question I have is, will the boats be sold and the check written to the town of Hingham, and then we'll turn around and pay it back to them when you say remitted? Or is the check going to be written to HHRSA, which I don't see how it could be, because they're not the ones selling the boat?
No, in this case, it would be remitted to us. I mean,
Okay.
we would, you know, and then we would deposit it. You know, I mean, Liza suggested athletic revolving, or it could be building revolving, or one of the revolving accounts, and then make a payment out to the Hingham High School Rowan, as we do today. You know, when we do a reimbursement, it usually comes out of the athletic revolving. So rather than taking that money and putting it into the general fund, we'd take it, put it into the revolving, but then we'd pay it out, you know, to the organization that's really doing, you know, managing the inventory. So we've done that other times. We've done reimbursements to the organization for like transportation. I think we've made I don't know. I know certainly for transportation. I don't know if we ever sold one and did a reimbursement, but I think would be fine.
Do
A
we have to
couple
dispose
questions.
of the boats? Is it gonna cost money to do that?
We would try to dispose of at the least cost to the town, which may mean, you take them out and maybe we could bring them to the dump for free. I'm not sure, but whatever disposal it might cost, or, it might be, hey, will somebody come pick them up?
I have
So-
cut up a boat and brought it to the, you
Sure.
have to get a permit, and, I have done that before, so it is actually possible.
Right, no, I know, right, I mean, it is possible, so, but what we do is, we would focus on the least cost.
Can we finish and then, I still have some questions on the issue. So, John, do we know if the entire board of the Hingham High School Rowing Association has voted to dispose of these boats?
No, I don't know that.
Okay. 'Cause
I mean, I would assume the president has the ability to speak on behalf of the board, but maybe not, and
okay, I
the
do
email
think-
I got was to Mark Bora too, who's the incoming president, and Doug McCabe, so.
Okay, because they are a full organization, so I think, to me, that's important, that the full organization is aware of their inventory. And now that we're bringing up questions, we haven't finished the MOU, and I guess for me, talking through this and what would we do with the money and where would it go, and I feel like we should now really think about having a set plan of, once the boats are disposed, the money will go back into a revolving account, and whatever amount would, they could submit repair receipts or something that we would agree to pay in that amount. But I'd like to see us have the final MOU in place.
I would like for it to
before-
be there also, Liza, and I'm working on it. And I said
yeah.
it would be done by the
Yeah.
end of the year, and it will. We have had all the agreements. What we don't have is the final document. So when John talks about, we agreed that, we've had all of the meetings, and we've come to agreement in the small group. Aileen has been at the meetings, so we have the information. We need the time.
No, I understand that. I guess that's why I'm kind of surprised we're doing this is in advance of that step, so.
Well, there's no hurry on, once you've made the declaration, you can execute it at any point, so we can wait until that point. That's
Well-
all.
Well, and it may, it may be that if you're gonna try to sell boats, now's the time of year to be selling boats too. So as a practical term, people are looking to buy boats now, so normally, so.
I mean, in my comment, when I spoke with Paul, I did say, well, the school committee's meeting on the 5th. I don't know if he can get it in. And, he went back and said, hindsight, relative to our conversation, would you bring it to the committee? So I'm bringing it to the committee. Otherwise, I said the next time they'll meet will be June 19th. So, and Paul will be leaving, Marco will be coming in. So Paul is stepping down. He won't be on the board. He won't be the president any longer. He no longer has anybody in the in the rowing. So as their parent volunteers. So
You know when is Paul's last meeting?
Tonight.
Oh, it is tonight.
Oh,
Because I was going to suggest to invite them to come over for the 19th.
I don't think we can fit them on the 19th. We have a lot of other things on the 19th.
So do you want to wait? Is that what you're saying?
That's my personal view. I, defer to the committee. I've said,
Well, I can see your point about having some sort of, obviously the president speaks for the organization, but, when we do stuff like submit the MSBA proposal, we have to submit the minutes of the meeting, right, along with that we voted to do this.
Yeah.
And obviously it's not quite the same thing, but, it would be nice to just know that everyone's on board. I'm assuming they are, but that's an assumption, so. Is there any harm in waiting, other than to Aileen's point of this is the time to sell boats?
No.
I don't think 2 weeks is gonna, but, you know, maybe we just need them to, you know, put it back on for the 17th and tell them we need just something verifying that, you know, they've done whatever they need as far as a vote to, for them to have done this too. Asked to declare them surplus or whatever it is.
This is the first time we've done this, right?
You know,
Surplus thing?
no, we've talked about it a couple of years ago. I think I might have declared one surplus before, but
Okay.
I was about to say that, but I just don't remember unless I
Yeah.
go back and check my record, so I'm not going to say it. But, I mean, we have done, you know, activities with this organization for the past 6 years. And, you know, I just don't remember what they've all been. But they, you know, they all got resolved and things worked out.
Evan, did you have a question? Okay.
And we could, I mean, ultimately, if nobody gets it, we could donate it, sure. I mean, you know, there's.
Can't you just list them for $1 or sell them for $1? And if you're saying let them figure out what to do with them, you're right. I'm sure they'll know where to sell them.
We have to go through the legal steps of declaring them surplus and offering them up, and it's, so if they don't sell, that's the possibility, but we have to go through the process to. I will entertain a motion if anyone would like.
Well,
To-
I'd like to make a motion
Okay.
and see how it falls out. I would make a motion to declare surplus the 4 boats that are mentioned on identified on bullet point 6.4 of the minutes of June 5th, 2017. To sell the boats to the highest bidder, subject to offered price, or otherwise dispose of the boats. The funds for the sale of these boats shall be remitted to the Hingham High School Rowing Association to be used for maintenance or replacement of existing equipment.
Do I hear a second?
Well, that's how that went.
I don't hear a second, so, so in that case, we'll
That's fine.
follow up on information and hopefully we can put it on a future agenda. Okay, thank you. 6.5, to declare as surplus used and outdated literacy books that are no longer used by Hingham Public Schools and that have no value to Hingham Public Schools, and to authorize the Director of Business and Support Services to donate such books to other public schools that may have a need first, or charities, or otherwise dispose of such books at the least cost to Hingham Public Schools.
I mean, I'm happy to make a motion to declare as surplus used and outdated literacy books that are no longer used by Hingham Public Schools and that have no value to Hingham Public Schools, and to authorize the Director of Business and Support Services to donate such books to other public schools that may have a need first, or charities, or otherwise dispose of such books at the least cost to the Hingham Public Schools.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Are these any specific books, or are these the old reading
I
materials?
didn't-
Or
no,
just a variety?
It's just a variety of old books. It's not an adoption or anything, but they've been house cleaning. Lainey had approached me with this, and you know, and she had just mentioned it, and then when I said I'm going to put it on, and she said, well, I don't have all the information yet, so don't. And I said, no, I want to put it on because otherwise they're going to get boxed up. They're going to go down to the depot. They're going to stay in the depot forever. And then you're going to declare the depot surplus, and they're going to get thrown out. I mean, that's what's going to happen. You know what I mean? And plus, too, I didn't want to wait till the 19th because the teachers are there now. So if there's if they know there's a place, someone had mentioned the Wollaston Public Schools might need it. It's like, okay, well, hey, that works for me. You know what I mean? So yeah, I just wanted to hit and strike while the iron was hot, so that if there is a way to get rid of these books and have somebody get some value out of them, I would much prefer that rather than getting them all into a dumpster, which is basically what happened to the reading adoption last year.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that's what the intent of this one was.
Great.
Can we throw in 10 books with each of the votes?
Could have a real deal, you get 10 books with each boat.
Yeah.
Or Buy 10 books, you can vote.
Better.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
6.6, to declare as surplus up to 100 three-year-old Chromebooks used by Hingham Middle School's 8th graders in the one-to-one program and offer the Chromebooks for sale to the middle school student at a price of not less than $35 and not greater than $50. Funds received from any such sale shall be deposited into the town's general fund. So you can explain this?
Yeah, let me, careful wording. Let me explain some of the wording,
Okay.
right? When I say, it says the middle school student means the middle school student who has that Chromebook now.
Okay.
Just so everybody knows that, okay? This isn't the general free-for-all. It's if you have the Chromebook now, you are the middle school student. So that's intentional. So that's why it says that. And I would ask for Dot to help me out here with I think the intent of this is we have Chromebooks that were approaching 3 years old now that were sitting with our 8th graders, and those we have a replacement plan set up for the Chromebooks. They've come down significantly in price, I think, from where they were at $329 down to like $169, and we are replacing these. So then we're going to have a whole lot of Chromebooks. And we have use for some by putting them in carts, so that we have carts, computers available or Chromebooks available for people that may need it. But through this turnover, we're going to have far more Chromebooks than what we would need. And, if they're just sitting down, they're just going to get more and more obsolete as time goes by. So I think the thought was here that, could there be a program where if a parent elected or if the student elected that has their Chromebook, if they would, perceive some value and it would be of some use to them, could we really offer it to them for, a nominal price of, $35 to $50? I'm not sure what the price would be, but not to exceed, not less than $35. We don't want to get rid of the entire inventory, and we don't make it general, available to everybody, but, so the 100 was arbitrary as well. It could be 50, it could be more, depending on the school committee, but we don't know, from what I understand, is how many people may be interested in this, so I didn't have a number to bring to you.
There was a survey sent out to the 8th grade parents on Friday
Mhm.
regarding this
They're
specifically.
due back by this
So,
Thursday.
right, due back next week, so, I don't know if that information is significantly gonna inform this. I mean, I'd hate to say up to 100 and vote on that, and then have 150, 200 people say, we want the Chromebook.
Yeah, understood, yeah.
Actually, my question was, how many do we plan on putting on carts so that then we
Well, we really
have a
wanted to do it
sense?
the other way around, to see how
Oh.
many would be needed, useful, wanted.
Okay.
And then have a sense of how many can go on carts. I mean, we can set a limit, but, as
How-
John said, it's
How many 8th graders are there?
over 300, more than
like
300.
350,
But we could come
60?
back and declare more
360,
surplus if,
actually.
so say 175 half said they wanted to
Right.
buy them, we could declare surplus another
You could.
bunch of them.
Yeah, and
If
you
we
could do
declared
up to,
surplus,
an amount too, you know what I mean? But, so that's a good question. I don't know how many we need or would have practical use for here. But, the fear is like any technology, if it just sits there.
Yeah.
Well, and they're not all gonna be usable either.
No,
That's
true,
right.
right,
Some are,
that's
yeah.
true. They won't all be usable, right.
Somebody's gonna have to make that, I have the survey here actually, because I figured not all of you might have gotten it. I know Kay did. It's very quick, but basically it just says, what's your kid's Chromebook condition? I'm taking a flat out guess, because I don't use the Chromebook. I mean,
Yeah.
I know she uses it, but, and it never complains about it, but that doesn't mean a whole lot, so.
Right.
So there's gonna have to be some determination of
Right.
effective,
Yeah, I mean, I would think if it's at home and the student is using it all the time, I mean, it's clearly they're using it for their schoolwork, but if they use it for other things, it might be valuable to them. And it's much better than sitting in building 19, or building, not building 19, building 12, you know, or any technology that sits. I mean, if it sits for another year, who knows what the state of it is gonna be, right?
Oh, yeah.
You know? So, yeah, I don't know the number, I don't know.
So your
I
concern
put it.
is that 100 is too little?
Well, if the number exceeds, do we have to then revote?
If it exceeds, you probably do, but because it says up to, right? Did I say up to? I said up
Why
to.
not do up to the number of 8th graders that we have? What would be the 360? I mean, let's just say there are 200 kids that want them. Are we gonna say no?
Right.
Right, if that, I mean, that's what I was thinking, if the intention is to sell them if someone wants them, then
To-
why not say up to 360?
Sure, yeah.
And then if,
Right.
all, if everybody wants one, then everybody gets one.
Unless we call out our needs. The only thing I don't know if we know what our needs are yet. You know, do we have a need for like 2 or 3 carts? Do we need 50? Do we need 100? I'm not sure what our needs are. I apologize for that.
So could we not then fulfill our needs first, it is school property, and then there's so many left over, and then reach out to the parent, the 8th grade parents? So I guess they wanna keep their one Chromebook that they had for the 3 years.
I mean,
I don't know.
again,
Well, we
you know.
didn't build, when we said we can use them, we do have uses for them, and they include the notion of creating some carts, but that was an arbitrary number, and we didn't count on any such carts for the number of Chromebooks we need in buildings next year, such as for testing. So these would be additional to what we think is already sufficient. So the other thing was that we were going to use some for spares, additional spares at the middle school, because even with new ones, people forget to charge them and they don't bring them in the morning, and any variety of things. And a problem we have now is that we don't always, on a daily basis, have sufficient spares. And then the third use was to have some at the middle school, at the high school, for students that really may have access to a computer at home but don't have one that they can bring with them, or a smartphone that they can bring with them as an individual to school every day. And we want all of our kids to have that opportunity. So those were all ideas that had nothing to do with the budgeting that we did for equipment. So we would do fewer of those things. We'd have fewer carts, we'd have fewer spares, but if we sold them
And
all.
why we cannot continue using these Chromebooks?
Excuse me?
Why we cannot continue using them until they break? What's the reason why we have to declare surplus?
They have basically a 3-year
expectancy.
life, and the incoming 6th grade,
We're
6th
buying
graders
a
would
new
get a
set. We
new
don't think
set.
we have enough to buy,
Yeah.
to rotate them again. We did
Yeah.
that last year. So,
John, how specific does this have to be? I
Yeah,
mean,
that's what I was gonna
can
say,
it
can't we
be,
just say up to 360 and then you can figure out all
you know,
those other details?
minus the ones required by the Hingham Public Schools for?
That, I mean, I think we could get into language like that, saying, you know, it's like, you know, up to, yeah, we could go up to, you know.
360 at the discretion of the business manager.
And superintendent, after they identifying needs, or, yeah, something like that, you know, once, or excess, up to the total that represents excess after-school needs, you know, something to that effect, right?
Yeah, on a first come, first served basis.
Do we
Is
wanna
this
do
something
this
that you want to
next
have
time?
resolved before the last day of
Once we
school?
get the
Well,
survey
the
back.
last day of, I mean, if our next crack at this would be June 19th, and that may be a little bit too late
Well,
to
yeah.
get out, information out to parents so that they can kind of consider whether they wanted to do it or not, you know?
Is that survey out already
Yeah, the survey,
Yes.
but it's due back next week.
next week?
Or
you
this
have-
week, this
So you
week.
have an idea.
Yeah. But I still think it's I mean, I'd prefer to just
Do it.
Yeah.
vote on something that's sort of spongy enough to
Give John
let
some
you
leeway on
guys
on his
do
language.
whatever you
Alright,
need to
well,
do.
let's take a crack at something. To
Yeah.
declare as surplus, I make a motion. To declare as surplus up to 360 3-year-old Chromebooks at the discretion of the Hingham Public Schools Business Director and Superintendent, based on the determined needs of the Hingham Public Schools. Period.
And offer.
Price
And
number.
to offer any Chromebooks that are determined to not be needed by the Hingham Public Schools for sale to the middle school student at a price of not less than $35 and not greater than $50, period. Funds received from any such sale shall be deposited into the town's general fund.
And sales should be on a first-come, first-served basis.
And any such sale shall be done on a first-come, first-served basis.
I think those are the essential components.
How is that?
How do parents let us know?
That's up to the school.
They're letting us know in the survey.
In the survey,
that went
okay.
out.
And I guess the other question I throw out is, does the committee want to be more specific with the range of price, or, because I don't know what the price, whether they do 35 or whether they do 50.
The middle school said 35, John said 50, and we put the range, but from a practical perspective, these are aging in the world of computers, and I think we'd be better off just picking a number in that range, or one or the other of the ends of the range, rather than having to decide on a unit by unit
But that was
basis.
a question in the survey,
But that's where
right?
the 35 and the
It
50
said
came from.
35 to 50.
So it would be nice to have that information back. I'm comfortable
Right.
leaving it at the
Okay.
range
Yeah.
until you have the survey
Okay.
information back.
Yeah, no, that's great, yeah,
I
so
would-
we'd use the survey to determine the price. In the volume, see, because I always say, okay, here, price indicates volume. So I always say, okay, well, if you want to manage the volume, just increase the price, right? So that's why
I'd
we
also
can
like,
manage volume.
like you to, if you can, use a little discretion on the price, depending on if you know of a family's situation that, $35 to $50 is not that big of a range, but
John, save some
certain
extra
families, it might
Chromebooks so
be.
we can give 2 Chromebooks with 10 books in a boat.
And pretty soon we'll have a Dr. Seuss poem
for
going.
anyone who is here or watching at home tonight and heard that, they can get that.
That special deal.
Okay, so, can I hear a second? on
Cynthia
Aileen's
seconded.
motion? Oh, okay, good. So any,
Is that on the boat, in the boat?
Yeah.
No, not on the boat, no boat.
any further discussion?
Absolutely not.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Nay.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Oh, Carlos is a no, okay.
Just so
Thank
you're
you.
aware, John, I don't think my name was attached to this when I said, did you send yours in yet?
No, I haven't.
Chromebook thing?
Okay.
I'm not sure that names are attached to the survey.
Okay.
So there may have to be another way of determining who actually wants their Chromebook. Unless it was my IP address or something, but I never typed my name in.
Yeah, no, I'm sure it's probably a Survey Monkey. It was a Survey
Yeah,
Monkey, yeah, so
right.
they probably wouldn't capture the information.
Okay.
So I think, part of this is the
Yeah.
public hearing in that sense, and then we'll try to get some word out to parents that's saying, if you're an 8th grader and you want to buy your students
Right.
Chromebook, they're being offered at this price, and
Well, let's wait for
So
the
let us
survey
know.
to come
Well,
back.
Yes,
That's right.
yes.
It's late for the survey
Yeah.
to go out is the basic problem, because,
Will they be selling parts? Because my son's missing his charger.
well, that was
Valid
another
point.
use that if we had any extra, even
buy the
non-operational
charger.
one,
It's gonna cost more
that we
than
could use them
$50
for
a charge.
parts as well. All right, we'll sort it out. The
All right.
survey is definitely late in going out, and
I'm not going to say it.
we would be in a better place had it gone out on time.
Okay, 6.7, to receive notification of the overnight field trip of grade 8 French students to Quebec City on May 4th through 6th, 2018. So that's for next year.
Yeah, this is the trip that you heard about at the last meeting, annual trip.
Do we know now about next year's DC
I don't know,
trip
that's a
and the
good
dates
question. They
of
were
when
having a
that might
meeting,
be?
a wrap-up meeting, maybe the first week in May, so that's a good question. I'm actually seeing Derek tomorrow, so
Okay.
I will get the answer to those questions.
Because I think this year they were pretty close together.
apart.
Right,
So,
and
it might be, whatever, but that was just something I found.
I'll ask that tomorrow.
Okay. Okay, 7 other items as may not reasonably be known 48 hours in advance of the
We
meeting.
don't have any of
Nothing?
those.
Okay. Subcommittee and project reports.
Policies meeting Friday. First meeting in the new session. Salary and negotiations is meeting tomorrow at 2:30.
And outreach committee meeting is tomorrow at 11:15.
Okay, and special ed is going to schedule for the week of the 19th or the following week. So Michelle and Ed, I need to confirm some dates with you guys. And.
Sorry, are you sending dates to us, or are we telling you?
We'll talk
Okay.
when we're done.
And I mention again for the SNAP Social, this Friday, June 9th, at the South Shore Country Club, fundraiser for SNAP Special Needs Athletic Partnership, 6 to 9 p.m.
Okay. Great. So these are be our first subcommittee meetings for the new year, so that's why there isn't so much to report on them. And I told you about the Foster School Building Committee earlier in the meeting, so I will send all of you that FYI. Okay.
Motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Thank you.